There was a ton of video game and movie news over the weekend, and we will go through all of it. Welcome to the newest episode of SDW.
Super Dario World!
It's a me,
Dario!
Woohoo! Let's go!
We have a lot, and I mean a lot of really great, interesting stuff that I want to get into. But first, a quick reminder that the podcast is now officially on iTunes, so please subscribe there. You can easily find it in by typing in Super Dario World Podcast in the iTunes Store search bar. If you could also rate the show there, that would be extremely helpful. Still 5 stars, people. Still 5 stars, and it's all thanks to you, so I really appreciate that. However, if you don't like iTunes, you can still find it on SoundCloud and YouTube. Again, just type in Super Dario World Podcast in the search bar. Still not on the iHeartRadio app. We'll keep you posted on that. As always, please add me on social media. You can find me on Instagram at Dario the Show. You can always contact me there with any comments, questions, or suggestions. Later on today, I will be putting on a poll that I need your feedback on because that's what I'm planning on talking about tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. It'll be around, 2, 3 p.m. somewhat. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. I'll put it in my Insta story. And as always, the feedback is great. I still appreciate all the thoughts and all the great ideas you give me. And I will answer everybody back later on today because I still haven't caught up on everything. I'm still, when you have like so many messages that you're like, you know what, screw this. Well, that's kind of where I am. And I'm recovering from Vegas, but it doesn't matter. I will get back to everybody. But okay, let's hit it. Okay, so let's just hit this hard and fast. First on the docket, you guys remember how last week I complained about Sonic's look in the trailer for his new movie? Well, apparently I wasn't the only one, and the message was loud and clear. It was so loud that Paramount, Sega, and the movie's director announced on Twitter that due to the criticism, they're going to change Sonic's design. We don't know what he's going to look like, but it's been confirmed it's going to be a design change, and I couldn't be happier about this. Great move, Sega. Great move, Paramount. And great move, Jeff Fowler, the director, for not, digging in your heels on a dumb cause. Now, a lot of people ask me, dude, why'd they do this to begin with? And I thought about it, and when you're an artist and you're hired to do the design of a character, you kind of want to do your own thing, especially if it's such an iconic character. So I'm guessing that the guy that they hired to do all the visual effects wanted to take his own spin on Sonic. It just didn't work out, so it's a good thing that ego was not in the way. I didn't hear of anybody getting fired, so I think the message was loud and clear. We like our Sonic the way we like our Sonic, with one really big eye. So, all right, good on you, and I can't wait to see the next trailer for this movie, because now it's actually got some hype behind it. So, good move all around. If this was the plan from the beginning, then you clever bastards, but I don't think it was. But anyway, that's the Sonic update there. Let's move on to the next one. Disney made a whole bunch of announcements the other day, and it's about their movie lineup, particularly the MCU, the Avatar sequels, and the next Star Wars trilogies. So let's break it down a little bit. First off, the Avatar sequels were pushed back. Well, Avatar 2 was pushed back 1 year from 2020 to 2021. Avatar 3 was pushed back 2 years from 2021 to 2023. And I'll get into the reasons why this is relevant. Oh, by the way, Avatar 4 and Avatar 5 pushed back to 2025 and 2027, respectively. But it's still not confirmed if there will actually be made, because James Cameron said that he will not make those movies unless 2 and 3 are successful. Anyway, I'm excited for those because James Cameron is an amazing director, and even if you didn't like the first Avatar movie, I thought the visuals were fantastic. It's one of the few movies that I actually think it's worth watching on 3D, and more importantly, it set up a really interesting world. I like the world of Pandora. So even if the story of the first one was meh, or it was just Pocahontas, or no, Dances with Wolves. It's an interesting premise, and they've already set up the world, and I like it. So I'm very interested to see what James Cameron does next with that franchise. But the reason why these movies got pushed back, it's because Disney wants them to alternate with the new Star Wars movies coming out, because there's 2 separate series that are being developed for Star Wars. The first one is being created by Game of Thrones showrunners David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, also known as D&D. From now on, if you hear me say D&D, that's what I'm talking about. And the other one is being developed by the director of The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson. Now, if you've heard me talk about Game of Thrones at all in this podcast, it shouldn't be any surprise that my reaction to D&D making a Star Wars trilogy is the That's the most eloquent way I can say that, because I have a lot of creative issues with those two. I think they're hacks. But anyway, Disney is not HBO. They're very protective of their franchises, especially now after the failure that was Solo. So hopefully they'll keep them on a short leash. And because I'll give this to them, the production value of the show looks great. Visually, it looks great. Just doesn't make any sense. So if they get a real writer in there, somebody who Disney really likes and who's going in the direction that they want, fine. Let's see. We'll test it out. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt until I see something. As soon as I heard the news, I immediately didn't like it. On the other hand, Rian Johnson, the director of The Last Jedi, well, I hated The Last Jedi. So, I mean, the last two Star Wars movies have been failures. Solo was a failure, Last Jedi was a failure, and hopefully that opened Disney's eyes to, holy shit, we gotta get better writers in here. We gotta get somebody who knows what the fans want, and not just what they want, how to actually tell a good story. Because my issue with Rian Johnson is the guy's a decent director in a small scale. If you've seen his movies, Brick, which is kind of a noir detective movie in high school, it's really good. I highly recommend it. It's with Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Or Looper, which again with Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis, about a hired gun for the mob that basically kills people who are sent from the future, and the next person who's sent is himself in the future. So it's more complex than that, but that's the way to dumb it down. Anyway, both of those movies are really good. They're really creative stories. The conversations are fantastic. They're extremely well acted, and they're both very small. It's not a grand scale thing, it's a small scale thing, and they're really good. Rian Johnson is really good on small scale things. Think back to The Last Jedi. The conversations between Rey and Kylo are super interesting. The grand scale things, like the space battle and all that stuff, not that great. So, personal stuff, he's really good. Grand scheme of things, not that great. So, if his Star Wars trilogy is more of a small scale thing, I could be into it. And in fact, you know what? I'm hoping it is, because that's his strength. And I'm hoping he sticks to it. Anyway, Disney announced that the next wave of Star Wars movies are coming out in 2022, 2024, and 2026. They still haven't specified which movies they're going to be or who's the person making those movies, but they announced them. So how it's going to work is you got Avatar 2 in 2021, the new Star Wars 2022, Avatar 3 2023, Star Wars 2024, Avatar 2025, Star Wars 2026, and the last of the Avatar movies, 2027. So all of these movies are coming out on mid-December. So pretty much Disney made a plan to dominate the December box office for the next 8 years, pretty much. So that's why they did that, probably. They haven't confirmed it, but if you're a gambling man, I'd bet on that. Anyway, they also made some interesting MCU news. That's the Marvel Cinematic Universe. With the official end of Phase 3 of the MCU, which ended with Avengers Endgame, they've announced the movies that are slated to come out for Phase 4. Now, the titles have not been announced. They're untitled Marvel films, but Phase 4 officially starts on May 1st, 2020. If I had to take a guess, that's next year. That's less than a year from now. If I had to take a guess, by the way, the upcoming Spider-Man movie or any Spider-Man movie, or the ones that are made by Sony, don't really count for this timeline. They specified that the Sony movies are not in the mix. They're not considered in the mix of these movies, okay? So if I'm taking a guess, I'd have to say it's Doctor Strange. It's got to be the next Doctor Strange, because it's the only movie that I remember that they set up a villain for already. Well, that one and Guardians of the Galaxy, but that one got really, really delayed by the whole firing of James Gunn, the director, and then rehiring him. So that one is super delayed, so it can't be Guardians 3. So I'm going to risk it and say it's going to be Doctor Strange 2. But I could be wrong. It could be the next Black Widow movie. Who knows? The next thing that Disney announced was shocking. I did not see this coming out of anywhere. They announced that Jessica Jones will be returning for its final season on Netflix, which is crazy if you think about it, because they announced earlier this year that Jessica Jones, along with Daredevil, The Punisher, Iron Fist, and Luke Cage had been canceled from Netflix, supposedly because they want them to be on Disney+. But whatever, the point is the show had been canceled, and now they're announcing the final season, which is great. Season 1 was way better than Season 2. In fact, I'm going to say that Season 1 was really good. Season 2 was mediocre. So if they go back to the roots, which was Season 1, the problem is that Season 1 had an amazing villain, the Purple Man, played by David Tennant. David Tennant is an amazing actor. So just season 2 was not on par. They needed a better, way better villain. So hopefully they get back to that and they close out that series with a bang, which, like I said, I like the series. Not too crazy about the lead actress, but she played Jessica Jones well. And so I was excited. I did not see that one coming. That one came out of left field, but good news. I mean, they're wrapping up the story, which is nice. And it gives me a little bit of hope that Daredevil will come back. Daredevil was the best show on Netflix. I don't care what anybody says. It was the best show created by Netflix, and the last season was its best season yet. I was stunned, shocked, appalled, furious when they announced that they canceled it. But if Disney has plans for Jessica Jones, then hopefully it means that they have plans for Daredevil as well, and they will close out his story as well. So hopefully we get the Devil of Hell's Kitchen back. I love that show so much. It might be the greatest superhero TV show of all time. I'll have to think about that one a little. I don't want to set it on stone, but off the top of my head, I don't see any contenders there. Except maybe animated stuff. But no, right now, off the top of my head, I think it's the best one, but I don't want to set it in stone yet. I'll deal with that another time. But okay, that was the big news there. Let's move on. Now, I forgot to mention this yesterday in The Good, the Bad, and the Martin, that apparently there's a coffee cup that was left on the table in one of the scenes of Game of Thrones, a Starbucks cup that was left in a scene of Game of Thrones in front of Emilia Clarke. That's Daenerys Targaryen, that's the actress who plays Daenerys Targaryen. The worst actress on the show, by the way. I said it. I meant it. She's the worst actress there. If you don't believe me, here's a little experiment. Who do you think is a better actress, Daenerys or Cersei? Daenerys or Melisandre? Daenerys or Brienne? Daenerys or Sansa? Daenerys or Arya? Daenerys or Caitlyn? Daenerys or Marjorie? Daenerys or Nymeria? Daenerys or a freaking tree? Daenerys or her horse? Jesus Christ. So, yeah, the point is she's the worst actress on that show. At least, that's my humble opinion. And this is 100% actor error. How the fuck do you leave a coffee cup if you know you're going to be on the shot? That's just ridiculous. It's bad for the DP, that's the director of photography. It's bad for everybody else. Bad for the continuity people, but Game of Thrones has continuity issues up the wazoo. But yeah, this is all on Emilia Clarke. And anyway, so HBO announced that the cup that they were widely criticized for, which I forgot to mention yesterday because I blacked out in anger with the whole Gendry thing. Anyway, that cup has now been digitally removed. So if you watch Game of Thrones again now, you will not be able to find it. So if you're starting to say that, oh no, it's been photoshopped in, no, it's actually been photoshopped out. So there you go. Next, let's move on to the video game world. Capcom made a couple of big announcements the other day. Capcom, for those of you who don't know, created the Street Fighter franchise, Resident Evil, Mega Man. Anyway, they announced that the Devil May Cry franchise, is coming to the Nintendo Switch. Now, it's not specified if it's going to be a new game or just the HD collection of all the other games. Doesn't matter. Devil May Cry is a fantastic franchise, and having it portable for the Switch is something that I really want to have. But the big thing here is that if you have Dante, the main character, appear on the Switch, then there's a chance that he may appear in the next Super Smash Bros., or that they could add him to Smash Bros. Ultimate as a DLC. That's a downloadable content. So I'm super excited. I love Dante. He's hysterical. He's basically a super cocky demon hunting PI, that's private investigator with supernatural abilities, because he's the son of a demon himself. So he's one of the most iconic protagonists in gaming history. So adding him to the Smash Bros. Lineup will be fantastic. If not, just being able to play the Devil May Cry games, which are fantastic and by their own right in the Switch, will be a lot of fun. Hopefully it's the HD collection. But anyway, Capcom also made the announcement that Monster Hunter World, that's a video game, has become their best-selling game of all time. Now, keep in mind, this is a company that's made Street Fighter and Resident Evil. So, Monster Hunter World is now their best-selling game of all time. And the weird thing is that, oh, by the way, the game is an open-world action RPG. That's a role-playing game. Basically, you go around hunting monsters, and from hunting them, you get stuff, and you create armor, and you hunt more monsters. That's pretty much it. It's open world. That's the dumbed-down version of it. You can also team up with friends, build a crew, play online. Point is, it's a highly popular franchise. But the funny thing is that I actually own this game, and I've never played it. And I started thinking about it, and I have a bunch of open-world RPG games that I just never play. Because the issue that I have with a lot of them is that you never finish it. It's too much. It's too big of a time commitment. And sometimes you get really into it, but you have to take a little bit of a break. And when you come back, you kind of forget how it works. So I'm going to put up a poll, because I have kind of the week off here at the studio. I can do pretty much whatever I want. It's a vacation week for me, even though I'm still here working. But I'm going to put up a poll to see which one of these games, because I have a few that are big titles that are just sitting there in my freaking living room, and I haven't played because I know that once I get into it, I won't have a life for a while. So I'm going to put up a poll and see which one you think I should play, which one is the best one to play, because if I'm going to play one, I'm going to go with the best one. So, we'll see. We'll see what people say. Because these are all fantastic games. Huge titles. It's just, I'm not ready for the time commitment. I'd rather have something short or that has a set story, that it has a beginning and an end, a clear beginning and a clear end, that I'm not just wandering around doing stuff, not following the story, because that's an issue that I had with Skyrim. I've never finished Skyrim. I have so many hours. I've started so many different versions of it, but I've never finished it because there's nothing that tells you have to go finish the fucking story. So lately I've been sticking to games that have that. Even if the side quests are amazing, even if they're fantastic, even if they're better than other games, it's just I get too distracted by fucking side quests. Also, I've been kind of playing more portable games because I have a Switch, I have a 3DS, and I got an emulator on my phone where I can play Pokemon games. So right now I'm knee-deep in Pokemon Emerald. So point is, I need to get into one of these because they're great games. I know they're great games. I just been avoiding them because I know it's a huge time commitment. It's just me sitting in my living room not being able to do anything else. The beauty about playing things in the Switch is that, for example, I can be playing Smash Brothers, and while at the same time I'm listening to a show, because, there's some shows you can just ignore. There's certain TV shows that you have to watch every second of it, but there's certain shows that you can just listen to and you'll get the gist of it. And, there's lulls in the game and you can look. Like, the beauty about Pokemon games is that you can just stop whenever you want. It's not really, time sensitive. So, I don't know. You'll see. I can explain that later. I'll probably get into it a little bit more after I do the poll. The poll will be up on my Instagram at Dario the Show, probably around 3 or 4 p.m. today. Moving on to semi-gaming, semi-movie news. It was announced that Will Ferrell will be starring in a new esports comedy. Now, I don't usually like to talk about movie announcements because sometimes they just change their mind or never happens. I like to wait until they show a teaser or a trailer or something. But this one really caught my eye because, here's the premise for the movie. A middle-aged man decides to join the highly competitive esports community and finds himself facing off against much younger opponents. Now, I don't know about you, but that sounds an awful lot like old-school Will Ferrell, like Will Ferrell even in Wedding Crashers. And Will Ferrell needed this, man. I'm so sick of Dad Will Ferrell. It's time for him to go back to being the naughty man he used to be. Those were his best comedies. And the movie's directed by a guy who directed a ton of episodes of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which, if you've ever seen the show, it has super dark humor. So the movie will probably follow along those lines, a super dark comedy with Will Ferrell being the best Will Ferrell. So, again, Will Ferrell and old school, that's who we want. That was the best Will Ferrell. Also, it opens up the possibility of maybe Ron Burgundy showing up to commentate on other esports competitions, which would be great. So, as prep for the movie. So, I don't know. I was excited. I like this news. Will Ferrell, is about time he got back to what he was great at. His other movies are fine. Dude's good in comedy, but he's way better at the naughty Will Ferrell than at the dad Will Ferrell. At least that's my opinion. For the last news of the weekend, the new Spider-Man Far From Home trailer arrived, and this is the first post-Endgame trailer that they've shown. This one actually shows you kind of the things that happened post-Endgame. So, spoiler alert if you haven't seen Endgame. 3, 2, 1. Okay. The trailer looks fantastic, and I love that they're immediately dealing with the death of Iron Man. Because actually, I had this conversation with Eddie. If you listen to the podcast where Eddie and I break down Avengers Endgame, I ask him who will carry on the mantle of Iron Man, and it looks like they're pitting Peter Parker to do it, which is fine. I mean, he's kind of young, but Spider-Man has been the crown jewel of Marvel since forever. He's the most lovable character. He fits in anywhere, so I can see why they went there. I love the Iron Spider suit. It's the best. Spider-Man might be kind of OP with it, but it doesn't matter. If I were fighting supervillains, I'd want to be as OP as possible. Anyway, I like that they're showing Spider-Man in a completely new way. So this is a completely different version of Spidey. He's in Europe. I don't remember ever seeing Spider-Man in Europe. I've seen him in space, but I haven't seen him in Europe. And so we'll get to see what happened after the snapping, what happens when they came back. They introduced a new version of Mysterio, or is it a new version of Mysterio? I don't know. He may be picking up the mantle of Iron Man. They introduced the concept of a multiverse. So there's a lot happening there. That small trailer shows you a lot, so I highly recommend that you watch it. It looks really good. I'm really stoked for the movie now. I was already stoked. I was already going to watch it. I was already excited for it. The first one had a lot of heart, and I loved it. The only thing that I didn't like was that it had too much Iron Man, because I hate Iron Man. But that's not a problem anymore, so I'll keep you posted on any news on that. Again, watch the trailer. It looks really good. And that's it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed that. A bunch of really quick news updates, things that I missed over the weekend and that I found interesting. For tomorrow, like I said, I'll be putting up a poll on my Instagram today. That's at Dario the Show on Instagram. Check out my Insta story. I'll be putting up a poll around 3 or 4 p.m. today about which open world video game you think I should be playing, or at least which one you think it's best, because I want to play the best one. If you want to also message me why, that'd be great. That'd be fantastic. I love hearing your opinions. So I'll probably be talking about that tomorrow. Also, I was considering that since Detective Pikachu comes out this week, I should do something for Pokemon either tomorrow or Wednesday for Throwback Thursday. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Let me know what you think. So again, at Dario the Show on Instagram, at me, and you can message me there. Let me know your thoughts on the poll that I'll put up later today, and what things should I focus on for Pokemon, because there's so many things I can't decide. But anyway, like I said, send me your thoughts. I really appreciate it. It helps me focus on the best direction to take this. And as always, thank you for listening, and I'll see you again tomorrow.